Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is in our Reengineering the Chess Classics series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and I just picked up a few more games of Sergio Mariotti. There were a few more that I thought were really worth looking at, so here we are. This is a game played against John Thornton in a game from the 2013 European Senior Team Championship in Dresden, and John's a Welsh player and Sergio was playing for Italy, of course. Very interesting game, nice play, and thought it was worth sharing with you. So let's have a look. So John is white, Sergio is black. So knight f6, c4, c5. And we get some sort of English game here with knight c6. And after d4, d6, we're actually back into a pretty normal g3 King's Indian. And white's got a couple of alternatives here. I mean, d takes c5 is completely possible. I've watched David Howell and Gawain Jones affront this position on a number of occasions, sitting next to them. It's pretty dull, I have to say, but maybe a small edge for white. The more exciting line is to play the move d5, and black plays knight a5. And I mean, to be honest, I never really like fianchetto systems with white. Yeah, first of all, I feel that my bishop should be here, pointing towards there. But also, there's always some weaknesses of the queenside light squares, and black can always try to exploit it. And yeah, I've played this position once, a very long time ago when I was, I think, 11 or 12. I decided to try and learn fianchetto systems, but I didn't like them at all, so I just sort of stopped. And yeah, I mean, in this position, the black knight is offside. It's on a5, doesn't have a good way to get back, but it's attacking the pawn on c4, and this is sort of going to cause white a little bit of a problem with development. White played the move knight d2, which is quite normal, just defending the pawn on c4, and then the idea will be somehow to develop, consolidate that pawn on c4, and then just leave the knight as a piece of dead wood on a5. That can happen, but doesn't have to. So black played the move a6, queen c2 now, and here Mariotti played the move e6. I mean, black's got quite a few alternatives here. The engines like to play b5 in actual fact, turning this into some sort of benko. It's not a very clear benko really, because, you know, instead of having a knight on d7, often going to b6, you've got the knight on a5, and it looks a little bit odd really, you know, with a knight. I mean, you've opened the a and the b files and you've got a knight in the way somehow. But the engines are reasonably confident about it. I mean, the way that they play it is quite interesting. Well, one of the ways they play it, this is the way that Stockfish plays it. Plays the move bishop f5 to 4c4. Yeah, 4c4. It's a bit of a double-edged one somehow. On the one hand, you're just giving white the opportunity to occupy the centre, support the pawn on d5. On the other hand, this d3 square is getting a little bit sensitive, and the diagonal of the bishop is blocked. So Stockfish was just playing e6 here, and you know, white was taking off. This was torch, and then afterwards knight c6. The knight's getting back into play. You know, I always feel that I'm just really a pawn down here as black, which is absolutely true. But yeah, Stockfish feels that there's you know, plenty of counterplay there. It's possible. It's possible. It feels like a bit of a dodgy benko to me, but yeah, the engines seem to feel that it's absolutely all right. What Mariotti plays is I think also very good. Simply just e6, and the idea is really that you want to take the pawn on d5 there. Whoa! Take back the pawn on d5. Can I? Undo that one. There we are. And that will then free the pawn to go to b5, which gives the knight a little bit more support. I mean, the knight can be used, you know, in a way to support and advance to the queenside pawns, or maybe the knight does get to go to c4 in the end. So it's quite a nice line there somehow. White now played the move a3, which is known in actual fact, but the way that Mariotti plays just looks very strong against it. The best move probably is to play the move b3 here, just to carry on with the plan, solidify the c4 pawn, and just try and neutralize all the pressure along here. What the engines want to do is to play the move rook e1 here, and then you get the bishop out of the way of the rook there, and then you're just claiming, okay, I've got my queen side and central structure solid, so black's just going to be sort of hitting his head against a solid wall somehow. I mean, it's not very clear somehow. I mean, knight d1, very typical move, just protecting the bishop like that, and also opening the line up so that basically trying to get the bishop off the line of the rook when black opens the b file with that. But yeah, rook e8, knight e3. Yeah, there's still plenty of tension in the position, and I'd always tend to like black in these positions, even if white is supposed to be a little bit better. I mean, what white plays with the move a3 is very ambitious, of course. You're hoping that at some stage you'll go b4 and trap this guy on a5, but yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of bishops and and pieces sort of getting in the way of that plan, and basically it just proves to be too ambitious. So e takes d5. The engines prefer black already, 0.38 already. E takes d5 and c4. And this is what I was talking about, actually. This knight is supporting the advance of the c-pawn. Normally you have to struggle a little bit more. And you're going to follow up with, b5, bishop f5, and that knight's just going to be very awkward. You've got your knight on d2 restricting the knight, but that knight also restricts the development of the bishop on c1. So unless you really get to target this knight somehow, yeah, you're just going to end up with gummed up pieces. White played the move b4 here, takes, which is already, in a way a little bit of a show of weakness, because black could just swap off this knight, and this knight was supposed to be dodgy. But I mean, Mariotti just plays it even better. Plays the move bishop f5, and yeah, I mean, the engine choice was to play the move e4, but after bishop d7, particularly this knight is really looking in a lot of danger there. And if this knight is unstable, then this pawn on e4 will be unstable too. So and I mean, you play a move like knight a5, I go queen a5, I'm bringing my queen into it. It's one of those positions for white that starts off wrong, and you feel like it's a sort of a rolling stone effect that you're going to end up feeling a lot worse before it finally stabilizes, and you can stop the rot somehow at some particular moment. Very difficult position for white, to be honest. But white played the move queen a2, and black just plays rook c8, and it's already -1 for black. Can you imagine? Just 15 moves in, sort of a modern Benoni type position, and black's already that much better. And the lovely thing about it is that after bishop d2, black plays the move knight c4. I mean, these are really the dream positions that make you want to play some sort of, modern Benoni type structure, King's Indian somehow. Glorious bishop on g7 now, and we're getting rid of its opposite number. So white played rook c1, knight takes d2, and then knight takes d2. The engines preferred the move queen d2, which I think the idea is really that you're at least stopping the queen from coming to a5, so you're sort of keeping the pieces at bay. But I mean, this was what the engines wanted, rook c8, and yeah, it's pretty clear that white's got some difficulties sort of holding on to everything. Got moves like knight e4 coming in here as well. White played the move knight takes d2, and then just rook e8. And you notice in the next sequence actually that Mariotti's really looking to play with the pieces. The engines are actually quite happy with a move like b5 and then queen b6, and then you just gradually move your pawns forward and just squash white. Mariotti's looking for peace activity here, so we're going to see basically playing on the dark squares, playing against the white centre. e4 was played by white, and now bishop d7. But again, you know, it's yeah, -2 now. The engines feel again. You know, these knights are tied down to the defense of the e4 pawn, but they're going to start getting attacked by the black pieces. It's one of those things where, you know, it's yeah, you've got this structure to hold up somehow, but the guys holding it, you know, are on very shaky ground somehow. So really a bit of a nightmare for white. This Queen b3 played, and now Mariotti played knight g4. Again, the engines, you know, very happy to play the move b5, Queen b6, and then a5, and you know, just start pushing those pawns basically. But yeah, Mariotti's playing with the pieces, and it's a pretty good idea. Looking at this sensitive spot, opening up the line of the bishop, and well, who knows where the black queen will go. a5 for the moment is a pretty good one. So knight e2 played, so sensible move it seems. White getting the knight out of the attack of the bishop. But now, yeah, maybe you can think what Mariotti played here. Very nice move. You know, you've played the knight away from c3. That's great. It's taken it away from attack. But you've also unprotected a square as well. And Mariotti makes good use of that. I think these are always, plays the move bishop b5 now, attacking the knight on e2. I do think these are always quite good psychological moves to play. You know, quite apart from whether they're the absolute strongest or not. Moves where you exploit squares that the opponent is undefended with his last move always have quite a big effect. You sort of think, oh my goodness, I missed that, I shouldn't have unprotected that. And it's also, I've mentioned a book a number of times when during the Lila Tactics, a really good book by De La Villa that's just come out called 50 Mistakes You Should Know. And he talks about emerging mistakes. Those are mistakes that emerge only after an opponent's move, either a tactic that wasn't dangerous before, or a square that the opponent didn't have access to but that he now does. And yeah, this is very typical of that. Very annoying when that happens to you. So after takes, rook c1 played, queen b8. So white didn't want to give black the c file. Only the problem is that when you're moving your rook out of here, I mean, you probably had to because your knight was pinned. But moving your rook off the f file now, it means that the f2 square is dangerous. And well, bishop's going to come to d4 if you move your knight away from e2. And there's other ways of attacking the f2 pawn. Maybe have a little think if you can think what that is. After knight c4, Mariotti played queen a7. Very nice. I mean, what I like about Mariotti's play in this game is that, you know, every move that white made, somehow Mariotti just found an extra little way to exploit it. Or if white took on c8, Mariotti found a way to get the queen to the a7 g1 diagonal quickly. It just makes the whole Mariotti's whole play very quick somehow, if you see what I mean. It just seemed like every move that white made accelerated black's play by a couple of moves, and I like that very much somehow. So after queen f3, Mariotti exploited a little tactic here. Played the move bishop takes c4. What's the idea? After rook c4, what's the tactic? Just a little one move one. Just knight e5, forking the queen and the rook. So white played the move queen takes g4, but now Mariotti exploited something else. There's something here that's well, that's attacked, and yeah, white just can't let it be attacked by anything else. And Mariotti played the move f5 here. What's the idea? Obviously, e takes f5. There's bishop takes e2. So yeah, there's also an attack on this one, and well, the white queen's finding it hard to defend this guy. Had to go back to f3, and Mariotti took on e4, and the white queen had to go back to g4. In a way, quite surprising that that there's nothing, no way to win a piece somehow. But obviously, if you play a move like h5, then queen g6 hit the rook. You mustn't get overexcited there. Yeah, the engines were happy to play the move b5, but I can imagine that Mariotti didn't appreciate the possibility of a knight maybe coming into f4 to e6, though, yeah, you know, it's not unlikely to be too dangerous somehow. For example, if I played the move b5 here and you went knight f4, then e3 is really powerful here, right? So that would have been probably the best move. What Mariotti did though was very sensible. He took on e2, so just removing any chance, and then hammered in that e-pawn into white's position. White played a move now which probably wasn't the best. I mean, the big threat is to go e takes f2 check and uncover the attack on the rook. If you go something like f takes e3, then rook e3 is going to be really dangerous here. Something like queen f2, maybe bishop d4, or actually I think rook e1 even is going to win as well, isn't it, with bishop d4 there. So that's really nice already. White actually had a decent defense here, or had a defense to avoid losing absolutely immediately. It's the move king f1. Important to spot these, just because the rook on e8 is unprotected and this is no longer check. So, you know, white can sort of hold himself together and, yeah, play the move bishop f3 and, you know, still keep black a little bit tied down because this rook on the 8 is pinned. The engines still think it's really good for black, but it's a little bit more complicated. White played the move f4 here, which sort of leaves that pawn free and dangerous, and Mariotti played the move queen d4. There was actually another tactic here. I don't know whether you can spot it. It's not obvious. It's just exploiting the fact that that pawn on e3 is there and that the white queen can't really move because the black pawn will move on to queen. Yeah, the engines point out the move bishop b2 here. When if queen takes b2, we've got e2 check and then e1 queen afterwards, which is absolutely catastrophic. So you have to go rook d1. Sorry, I'm messing around there. Rook d1, and then you've got bishop takes a3. So you would pick up an extra pawn there. Well, what Mariotti did was pretty powerful because he played queen d4. And I think the idea was to stop white from playing the move bishop h3, because then you could take on d5. I think that was the general idea. Well, white was probably wanting to repair that with rook d1, but something went wrong for white. Can you see how Mariotti finished off the game? Yeah, now that you've seen all these Leela tactics, I'm sure you saw queen takes d1. Queen takes d1 and e2, and that was pretty much the end of the story. White played queen e1 to block, but now Mariotti finished off with bishop c3, and white resigned because after queen c3 there's e1 queen. Just a nice bright and breezy game. I liked it somehow. It just flowed very nicely for black, and yeah, just somehow everything that white tried sort of accelerated black's attack. I always like games like that. And yeah, just a nice game from sort of later in Mariotti's career. He played a number of senior team championships. I think even in 2019 he played in one where the Italians actually came second, ahead of England and just behind the United States. So that was a great result for Italy. A team of Michele Godena, who I played against a couple of times, a good player. And also a few other. It was Garcia Palermo, who I think moved from Argentina to Italy. I played him a very long time ago, Garcia Palermo, when I was 12, 13. I think I drew with him on the way to making my first IM norm at the Oakham Young Chess Masters, 1988. Oh, so long ago. And also I think who were the other people? Fabio Bruno, I think, and a few others. So funny to see all those names and come across people I played when I was young. But there we are. I've got a few more Mariotti games, a few great ones actually to share with you. So do stay tuned for that, and hope to see you at lots more videos. Thanks for watching.